It started with a splash, a scream, and a single shot that shattered everything. 4th of July, midday sun high over the neighborhood pool, burgers on the grill, kids splashing, parents laughing, veterans of all ages gathered in peace. My best friend Malcolm had just made a cannonball into the deep end, surfacing with that big laugh of his echoing against the concrete. That was Malcolm, loud, joyful, full of light. He wasn't just a friend. He was a brother in arms. We'd served together in the 75th Ranger Regiment. He'd saved my life in Afghanistan. I owed him everything. Then came the voice, sharp, shrill, laced with contempt. "You don't belong here." We all turned to see her. Karen, the self-appointed HOA queen, in a red one-piece so tight it looked like it was punishing her. A clipboard under one arm and her other hand gripping her phone like a grenade. She wasn't just a complainer. She was a threat in heels. She'd made it her mission to police every guest, every sound, every unapproved flotation device at our community pool. "This isn't open to outside guests," she screeched. "You, get out before I call the cops." Malcolm raised his hands peacefully. "I'm with Logan," he said. "I live here every summer. You've seen me around." But Karen wasn't hearing him. Her eyes had already narrowed like crosshairs. I saw it in her expression. This wasn't about pool rules. It was about control, about race, about power. She called 911 right there. "There's a large black man trespassing, acting erratish, armed, I think." My blood ran cold. "No, he's not," I shouted, racing to the edge of the pool. "Karen, that's enough. You're making a mistake." But it was too late. 7 minutes later, 2 officers arrived, guns drawn. Malcolm had just grabbed his towel. He froze. One of the officers screamed at him to put his hands in the air. He did. The other officer slipped, stumbled, and fired. The sound was deafening. Malcolm dropped. Blood spread across the concrete like red ink on a white page. The pool party erupted into chaos, kids crying, parents screaming, someone vomiting in the corner. And Karen? Karen just stood there, eyes wide, hand covering her mouth, but not in horror, in satisfaction. I pushed through the chaos, dropped to my knees beside Malcolm, applied pressure with my own damn hands while yelling for someone to get an ambulance. The bullet had gone through his side, thank God it missed his organs. But his face, he looked betrayed. "He shot me, man," Malcolm whispered. "I didn't do anything." I remember looking at the officer still holding his weapon and screaming, "You just shot an unarmed veteran because of a fake call." The aftermath blurred together. Paramedics, police tape, news vans. Karen disappearing before the sirens faded. Malcolm was rushed into surgery. I rode with him, gripping his hand the whole way, willing him to stay with me. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing the blood, hearing the scream, seeing Karen's satisfied smirk. And I knew this couldn't end with just a hospital bill and an apology. Not this time, because Karen hadn't just called 911. She'd weaponized it, and someone needed to hold her accountable. The next day, I filed a formal complaint against her with the HOA, but that was just the beginning. You see, I'm not just a homeowner. I'm Commander Logan Price, SWAT tactical leader, recently retired. And I still train active units on protocol, de-escalation, and the consequences of weaponized emergency calls. I've testified before the State Board on racial bias in policing. And I knew exactly what Karen had done triggered a false report that nearly got my friend killed. So I started digging. Karen had a history. That much was obvious. Within 48 hours, I had a list of 6 previous 911 calls she'd made in the last year alone, 3 of which involved young black men. Every one of them labeled as suspicious, aggressive, or possibly armed. None of them led to charges. 2 had ended in officers drawing weapons. I sent this to the mayor's office, the local precinct commander, and our HOA board. I also filed a federal civil rights complaint. But still Karen stayed silent. No apology, no visit, just rumors that she'd feared for her life and followed procedure. Then she made her next mistake. She threw a pool party. Yes, you read that right. Barely 3 weeks after Malcolm's shooting, She organized a summer freedom bash at the same pool. Posters went up all over the neighborhood barbecue, raffle, music, and in bold red letters, only current HOA residents welcome. ID check enforced. That was the moment I snapped. I called my old team, not for vengeance but for visibility. We showed up in uniform, not full tactical gear but visible enough to turn heads. 5 of us, all veterans, all officers trained in threat assessment and public de-escalation. One of them, Malcolm's cousin and active-duty U.S. Marshal. He brought body cams. We walked into that pool party like ghosts at a wedding. Karen spotted us from across the deck. She froze mid-laugh, the beer can in her hand trembling. Her little posse of clipboard warriors shifted uncomfortably. "Evening," I said. "We're here for the celebration." She stammered. "This is private. This is for approved residents." "We are residents," I replied. "And Malcolm was nearly killed right here. So we thought it was a good time to remind folks what real safety looks like." Then Malcolm arrived. He'd been cleared for light walking. Bandages still fresh. Sunglasses hiding his bruised eyes. The moment he stepped in, the music died. A hush spread over the party. And then something incredible happened. A neighbor named Celeste walked up quiet, gentle, a mom of 2, and handed Malcolm a slice of pie. "We're sorry," she whispered. "We should have said something sooner." Then her husband raised his beer and said, "To Malcolm." Voices joined in. 12, then 24, then everyone, except Karen. She backed away slowly, like she was shrinking with every step. Her mouth opened, but no words came. I stepped toward her, calm and controlled. "I suggest you leave. I have every right to." "Not anymore." I handed her a cease and desist order. The civil case was in motion. But more than that, the HOA had reviewed my report and voted. She was suspended indefinitely. No more clipboard. No more power. Karen didn't walk out, she stormed off. Her cheeks blazing red, muttering threats about lawyers and defamation and, "How dare you all?" No one followed her. No one even looked her way. She was done. Finished. Dethroned without a single scream in her defense. But for me and Malcolm, that wasn't enough. We filed a joint lawsuit, Malcolm for personal injury and racial discrimination, me for defamation and emotional distress. Our attorney was a powerhouse, ex-JAG with a specialization in community policing cases. She took one look at the footage, the 911 transcript, and said, "This isn't just civil. This borders on criminal." The county prosecutor agreed. 2 weeks later, Karen was formally charged with filing a false emergency report resulting in bodily harm, a charge that, under state law, carried jail time. She tried to plea it down, of course, claimed she was confused, and that Malcolm had made her feel unsafe. But the evidence told a different story. The video, the previous calls, the HOA testimony, the fact that she never once checked on Malcolm after the shooting. Not even a damn text. In court, Karen looked nothing like the iron-fisted woman from the pool. She wore beige like she thought it made her look softer, sat with her hands folded like a schoolgirl awaiting detention. But the jury didn't buy it. They saw the pattern. They saw the malice. They found her guilty. Sentencing was swift. 6 months probation, 200 hours of community service, mandatory bias training, and a permanent bar from serving on any HOA board within the county. The Georgian Air Force veteran herself called her actions a disgusting abuse of civic systems rooted in entitlement and prejudice. Her words, not mine. Outside the courtroom, a small crowd had gathered. Some were reporters, some neighbors, some strangers who had followed Malcolm's story online. When he stepped out of the building, cane in hand, there was a ripple of applause. He didn't smile. He just nodded, quiet and steady, like a man still processing the weight of what had nearly happened. I asked him later, "How do you feel?" He said, "Lighter, not healed, but lighter." What none of us expected was what came next. Congresswoman Denise Alvarez, who'd seen the viral footage and read our case files, reached out. She invited us to testify in support of a bill she was drafting. The Community Safety Accountability Act, a legislative package targeting the abuse of emergency services in HOA-governed neighborhoods, especially when tied to racial profiling and false accusations. Malcolm hesitated. Public speaking wasn't his thing. But I told him the truth. This isn't about you anymore. It's about everyone who's been shot, silenced, or slandered because someone like Karen had a phone and too much power. So we flew to D.C. The hearing room was packed. Malcolm wore his army dress blues. I wore mine. We sat beside each other, hands folded like we had in the field, in silence until the chairperson called our names. Malcolm's voice cracked as he spoke. I didn't do anything wrong. I went swimming with my best friend. And I ended up in a hospital because someone lied. That lie could have ended my life. For what? A sense of control? A rulebook? A clipboard? He paused, cleared his throat. I served this country for 15 years, but I was shot feet from a kiddie pool in the suburbs. Something's broken. This bill won't fix everything, but it's a damn good start. By the time we finished, half the room was crying. The bill passed committee 2 weeks later. It's since been signed into law in 3 states with more following. Meanwhile, back home, our HOA underwent a full transformation. They rewrote the bylaws with community input. Transparency panels were formed. Annual anti-bias training became mandatory for all board members. And Karen's name? It became synonymous with everything the neighborhood never wanted to be again. Funny thing is, the pool, once a battleground, is now the most peaceful place in the community. Malcolm and I swim there every Sunday. He cracks jokes with the kids. The lifeguards all know his name. And the wall where he bled that day, it's now painted with a mural, blue skies, a soaring hawk, and a single line beneath in bold letters. Courage is not staying silent. It's speaking up even when your voice shakes. Sometimes people come by just to read it. Sometimes they ask for a photo with Malcolm. He always smiles, shakes their hand, and tells them, the real hero was everyone who spoke out. We've since launched an initiative called Civic Honor Watch, a nonprofit focused on tracking HOA-related abuses, providing legal support, and offering free community training on de-escalation and rights education. Within 6 months, we had over 10,000 members across the country. Karen? She moved out, put her house on the market, and slashed the price just to get away from the stares, the questions, the whispered stories. She left behind a legacy of fear and damage, but also intentionally a wave of reform. Because sometimes poetic justice doesn't come from revenge. It comes from a community deciding never again. And me? I'm just a neighbor, a friend, a man who owes his life to a brother who nearly lost his own over a lie. We didn't burn Karen's world down. We rebuilt ours stronger. So now I ask you, was justice served? Did we do enough? Or does the system still need fixing? We want to hear your voice, because silence is where Karens thrive, and light is what finally makes them fade.